What is going on, guys? Duranathor here, and today I thought I would bring you the Trickstar deck profile that I've been using at the locals for the last couple of weeks. It's not purely Trickstar, there is the Windwitch engine in there as well. I'll go through and kind of explain what I'm playing and why, and if there are any changes that can be made to the deck. But we are playing 3 of the Ice Spell because she is the one that special summons and summons another Windwitch. You'll be summoning Glass Spell, and then you'll do Glass Spell chaining 1, Ice Spell chaining 2 to chain block the Ash if they didn't play it on the Ice Spell summon. Sometimes they don't, just because they think it's better to have something on the board for them to then Ash, so then you can't respond with other cards, like Gamma, for instance. I know it's at 1, but sometimes people wait. But you Glass Spell chaining 2, Ice Spell chaining 1 to chain block to then add the Snowbell. So the Ice and the Glass make the Winter Bell, and then the Winter Bell and the Snowbell make Crystal Wing. And then with the effect of Snowbell, it can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So you get your Omni Negate that can't be destroyed by card effects, which is quite helpful. Down the Trickstar line, we are playing 3 Candina. She is always 3 of. I don't know why you would ever play less than 3. She searches any Trickstar card as your normal summon, and since your Ice Spell is your special summon, your normal summon is free. I'm playing 3 Lycoris. You could probably drop it down to 2. Not really sure what you would play in its place, but I find having 3 is quite helpful because it is something that you side out going into games 2 and 3. If you're going first in game 2, you side it out into Harpy's Feather Duster. Not first, sorry, going second into Harpies or like Pank. If you're going first, you just put in like another copy of the Trap Trick. I quite like having 3 because it's also a case of if you end up with all 3 in hand and you're going second, you can just OTK. That is a possibility. So I do enjoy playing 3 of the Lyco, and I also own 3 ultis, so I quite like playing 3 ultis. I'm playing 1 Corobane and 1 Lilybell. I think that's the right way to play it. You could potentially play 2 Corobane just to catch your opponent out, but I think 1 is the right way to play it. She's essentially like the Honest, but she adds on the original attack. So it makes Candina a 36 and it makes Lycoris a 32. If you did have a second Corobane, you can make that a 4k. It only makes Lilybell a 1600, so it's really not worth using on Lilybell unless you want to just keep her alive. But Lilybell can attack directly, and she returns a Trickstar monster from grave to hand. So essentially you Candina, search for Light Stage to add Lycoris to switch out, so your Candina's back in hand for next turn. Candina burns when they play a spell and trap, Lycoris burns when they draw, so you want Lycoris on the board so they take 400 during their draw phase, because it counts. Hand trap wise, we have 3 Dimension Shifter because this deck really doesn't care about banishing itself. The only thing it might do is the Reincarnation, but oh no, I'm banishing a Reincarnation potentially, so my opponent doesn't do anything during their turn. Pretty good trade-off. We're playing 3 Droll, which may seem quite counterproductive with the Dimension Shifter, but once again, if you can't Droll them and you have de-shifted, odds are you're probably shutting down the majority of their deck anyway. But Droll has a really nice combo with Reincarnation and also Disturbance Strategy, which I'll get to when I go over them. But Droll is a pretty handy card. So yeah, 6 hand traps, 8 Trickstars, 5 Windwitch. I see a lot of people playing 2 of the Glass Spell, because if you draw the 1, then obviously you can't summon it with the Ice Spell. But you still Ice Spell effect, and then you just use your Glass Spell as the normal and search the Snowbell. It's not as good because it leaves you with an Ice Spell on board and it takes up your normal summon. You could probably play 2, but I just like to play 1 for a bit more sort of consistency. We're playing a Terraforming and 3 Light Stage, because yes, Candina can search for Light Stage, but most of the time you want to search Reincarnation. So if you've got the Terraforming, search the Light Stage, and sometimes you need the Light Stage to search the Candina. There's a 3 of. When this went down to 1 and 2, this deck just kind of died. It's a 3 of. We're playing the Call by the Grave, because if you normal a Candina and then you get ashed, it can be quite painful. Your turn can just end. especially if you get drolled as well. It's quite handy to call by the droll, which is why the D-shifter works, because you can D-shifter on your turn and it stops you getting drolled. But call by is just, yeah, really good card. Shame it's a one-off, but really good card. And the Trickstar Reincarnation. You banish your opponent's hand, they draw the same number, but you can banish this to the graveyard to special summon a Trickstar monster, and you can do that in the same turn. A lot of cards that are like that usually say, you know, you can only activate either effect, but you can do that in the same turn. So I've done it before where my opponent's just sort of gone full in. I Reincarnation to banish their hand for them to draw, and then use the effect to put the Lilybell in defense, and it's a 2k. They attacked with like an 1800, so they had to stop that attack and use a bigger guy to get over just the Lilybell. And then it kept me to the next turn, where I drew the Candina to search for the Corobane, and then just punched over the guy that they had, and then sort of went on from there. But 3 Reincarnation, it's 3 of as well. I'll move these to the end. But we have 2 Disturbance Strategy, which is essentially the same as Reincarnation, but they shuffle the hand into their deck rather than banishing it. But it's not searchable, and you know, 5 copies of it is enough. I had tried 3 Disturbance Strategy as well, but because there's no extra effect to Disturbance Strategy, it was quite difficult when you ended up with 2 in hand, and you were looking at it going, you know, this could have been a Court Buy, this could have been, you know, a third Lycoris, as in, you know, I replaced a Disturbance Strategy with the 3rd Lycoris. We're playing 3 Imperm, pretty good going first, pretty good going second. 3 Imperm. 3 Summon Limit, because once again, like, this deck doesn't summon much apart from the Windwitch stuff, but you're only ever really going to be doing that going first. It's not very often you're doing it going second. There is another card I can put in here, and I probably would change it. I would probably change the Synchro Dragon to Diamond Bell, because you can force your opponent to draw cards and you can do effect damage on your turn to then get Diamond Bell's effect to go off. I probably would change a Clear Wing to Diamond Bell, but I'll go over that in a moment. Summon Limit is another one of those, where your opponent summons twice, you flip Summon Limit, you go, what else are you going to do? You know, you just win the game from there. Evenly, 3 evenly, you know, go in second, you evenly your opponent. Sometimes you do just win. Even going first, it's not too bad because of the trap tricks that we have. So if your opponent like really just blows everything out of the water, destroys everything that you have, you can trap trick to then like set an evenly and use it at the end of your opponent's battle phase. But we have 2 trap trick. I was running 3, but I don't think you want to see it that much. It's handy, it has its uses, but I don't think 3 worked. I kept seeing 2 of it in my hand, and once again you were there going, you know, this could be a Ice Spell, this could be a Lycoris, and I cut it down to 2, and I quite like it at 2. I don't think I'd play 3, but I quite like it at 2. Before I had the 3rd trap trick, I think it was the 2nd Glass Spell that I was running as well. I think I had like 44 cards in this deck. I had another copy of Corobane, another Glass Spell, and another trap trick, and another Disturbance Strategy. So I kind of just cut things down just to get it to 40, because I think 40 is the point that you want it to be. Going into the extra deck, we have 2 Trickstar Bloom, because I was playing the level 1 Trickstar, which is a possibility for you to put in here. The Nightshade, because you Nightshade, Bloom, Nightshade summons itself, you go straight into Holy Angel. But it's the normal summon that you have to use for it. You'd much rather be normal summoning a Candina, but I was playing one Nightshade, but I cut it out. You could put it in, but I cut it out. I've got Akashic, just because it catches your opponents off guard, and if you have, say, like 2 Lycoris on the board, or like a Lycoris and a Corobane, and you don't want to go into Holy Angel, you want to get rid of a problem card that's in the correct monster zone, you can go into Akashic. But there are lots of level 2s. You could play something like the Nightmares. They may be a little bit better. And we got 2 Holy Angel. She is pretty much the one that, if you can, you want to go into her, because she protects the Trickstars that she points to. And we got one Foxglove, just on like the random odd chance that you do have 3 on the board, and she just burns when you summon her for cards your opponent controls, and then when she dies she burns again and summons a Link 2 from your extra deck, which is why we've got 2 Holly Angels. So you would summon one, and then, you know, like Holly Angel and Lycoris up to Foxglove, deal the damage, run it into Suicide so it gets killed, you summon the Holly Angel, Foxglove does more damage. And we've got Topologic Trigsmania and Topologic Bomber Dragon. You very, very rarely go into these, but when you do they can be extremely helpful, because you banish Reincarnation to summon something underneath them to get off their effects. You know, get rid of the spells and traps, inflict 500 to your opponent, and then nuke the board and punch them for 3k because it's 3k. And in the same vein, access code, because it's like pretty easy, especially when I had Nightshade in here. It was quite easy to link climb, because if you use Nightshade and something else to make Holly Angel, use Holly Angel and something else with Reincarnation to make Foxglove, Reincarnation something back, Foxglove, and, you know, the Nightshade that you've used to make access code. And then you've got, you know, 5/3 access code. And yes, they're all lights, but like popping one and then punching someone for 5/3, still pretty good. I've slightly touched on them, but we have the Crystal Wing, which is the end of the Windwitch line. Having an Omni Negate that can't be destroyed by card effect is pretty powerful, because Crystal Wing also kind of protects itself from battle of, well, it definitely protects itself from battle of level 5 or higher, and level 4 or lower. Very rarely going to have more than 3,000 attack to punch into you without using an effect, which you can negate. Clear Wing is just a weaker version, but, you know, if your opponent imperms or effect veilers the Glass Bell, so it keeps you at the level 7, you can make Clear Wing instead. It's not an like Crystal Wing isn't an Omni Negate, it's a monster negate, but Clear Wing is level 5 or higher monster negate that is targeted, so it's not as good, but it's something that you can go into if your opponent ashes or imperms the Glass Bell. And then Winterbell is the card that you go into so that you're saving the Clear Wing, but because I'm now only playing one Glass Bell, I don't think it's even worth me playing the Clear Wing. As I said, I will be replacing it, if I could spell Windwitch, with Diamond Bell, so I will do that. But Clear Wing is in there if you're playing 2 Glass Bell. Diamond Bell is the better going second. You can make it, can't be destroyed by card effects, and if your opponent takes battle or effect damage, target a card on the field, destroy it. If it was Synchro Summon using only Windwitch monsters, Winterbell and Snowbell, you can use it twice per turn. And then the other 3, we have the Ultimate Falcon, which is unaffected by card effects, Exterior, which is a spell and trap negate by banishing a card and sending the top card of your deck, and Last Warrior from Another Planet, which destroys all monsters I control, and then neither player can summon monsters. The reason I have those is because of Waking the Dragon. This deck is playing 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16 traps. Games 2 and 3, you know, if you're going first, you take out the Evenlies, put in the Waking the Dragons. Even if you're going second, just still put in the Waking the Dragon, because your opponent will want to destroy the 16 traps and the 3 spells that you play. You know, half your deck, they're going to want to pop stuff, and people are going to side in Harpies, they're going to side in Cosmic Cyclones, they're going to side in things to hit your Waking the Dragon. You will always be getting this off. And these 3 are kind of just the best targets for it. You can also get Crystal Wing if you really need to, but, you know, Last Warrior from Another Planet, neither player can summon. Just puts it in like a completely dead game state. And if you really, really need to, you can tribute to summon Korrabane. You can, I think. Don't know if it works like that. I've never had to do it. We'll have to check. Or maybe you guys know. Maybe you could let me know in the comments, because I don't want to do it if I can. Side deck is, yeah, kind of rigged around the locals. So I'll go over it and why I play them. Pankrotop's just a brilliant card. We've got a couple of people playing Labyrinth, we've got a couple of people playing Trap Trick, and we have couple people playing the Cash Tira, so it's just handy to have your own, like, you know, big 2/6 that you can pop something with. It is quite handy as a pank when you're going second. 3 Ash, you know, stops Branded Fusion, stops searching the Trap Tricks, stops Sarah, it stops the, I think it's Lilith, the level 4, that the, I've said it, it's the traps. Labyrinth people play. And then because of the Labyrinth, we've got Feathers Dusters and Cyclones. Light Stage can force your opponent to activate their face downs, and also get rid of them if they just flat out can't activate them. But Harpies and Cyclones just to get rid of the problem cards. I've gone over Awaken the Dragon. You know, your opponent will side in Spell and Trap removal, and if they hit Awaken the Dragon, you play an Ultima Falcon or an Exterio. Sometimes you just win the game. Dimensional Barrier. I've mentioned this a lot in my videos. A lot of people at the locals play single extra deck types. So, you know, Sword Soul with their synchros. Trap Tricks play the Xyz and the Lynx. You can stop, obviously, the Xyz with the Dimensional Barriers to stop Rafflesia, to stop P and Jaluka, and things like Utopia. Dimensional Barrier is really, really good at our locals, and I feel like Dimensional Barrier is probably one of those cards that like comes in and out of the typical meta, depending on what's going around. And we play a third copy of the Trap Trick just because sometimes, like, it's something that you want to put in. If you know that you're going first, you'll take out the 3 Evenlies, and, you know, potentially take out, like, an Imperm. Maybe even take out, like, the Windwitch stuff for game 2. If your opponent just had stuff that could stop the Windwitches. Or, like, Labyrinth, you know, the monster negate doesn't really do too much against Labyrinth. You'd be better off having things like Cyclone and Ash in there. So if you're taking out, say, like, 5 Windwitch and 3 Evenly, that's 8 cards you can put in. You can put into, like, 3 Waken the Dragon, a Trap Trick, a Harpy's Feather Duster, and 3 Cyclones. That's 8 cards to replace it with. I always find that it's handy to know what cards you're going to be taking out, like, no matter what happens. So if you were going second in game 2, like, odds are you're just taking out the Windwitch stuff anyway, because they don't really do too much going second that, you know, Ash, Pank, and Harpies can't do. Going first, you take out the, you know, the Windwitch. You got 5 cards that you're taking out most of the time, which is always handy to have. And sometimes, you know, like, D-Shifter might not do anything to your opponent, so that's another 3 that you're guaranteed to take out in some matchups, so the Ash will just replace them. Yeah, there are other hand traps you can put in, like Ghost Ogre can be quite good. I did test things with like a small world engine with the Windwitch, the Droll, and like Kurakar, the Divine Incarnate, because it's quite handy to be able to search for a Droll and Lockbird and search for a reincarnation, because the combo that I haven't gone over, and I really should have, because it works with Disturbance Strategy as well. If your opponent searches, adds a card to their hand, the correct way to chain it is to activate one of these 2, so Reincarnation or Disturbance Strategy. Wait for your opponent's response. If they don't have one, you draw. Because going backwards, a draw will activate, saying your opponent can't add cards to their hand, and then Disturbance Strategy will either shuffle their hand into the deck, or Reincarnation will banish it, and then they're under draw, so they can't draw. So your opponent will then just lose their hand and not have anything. That can just win you a game. Even if it doesn't just flat out win you the game, your opponent is drawing 1 card for their turn. And unless they hit an Extrav, a Prosperity, Desires, or, like, you know, in our case, it'd be great if you drew 1 card and hit Ice Spell, but odds are you're gonna have Crystal Wing up on the board, you're gonna have, like, Summon Limit, probably an Imperm, you're gonna have something to stop your opponent's 1 card. This combo's nuts. I love this combo. That's why I love this deck so much. So much. You can play Extrav in this. You could take out the Windwitch and change up the side deck. obviously want to play Prosperity rather than Extrav because it searches, but sometimes the Extrav can be handy to draw 2 rather than just adding 1 from 6. Things like Dark Room of Nightmare I feel like are way too slow for this. Yes, okay, like the burn damage is only 200 or 400 if you have Light Stage, but the burn damage is kind of something that just goes on in the background. I don't feel like this deck needs to focus on the burn damage. This deck needs to focus on big cards that can just win you the game, because on its own it does struggle to. Reincarnation Draw is a combo that wins you the game. Dimension Shifter is a card that wins you the game. Evenly is a card that wins you the game. Waking the Dragon can win you the game. Access Code can win you the game if you do manage to get into it. The thing that you've got to remember, with the Windwitch line, it locks you into wins completely if you go all the way through it. So you can't Lycanthus to put the Cantina back into your hand and summon the Lycanthus, or summon the Lilybell that you search on the same turn that you've Windwitched. That's just the biggest thing to remember with this deck. The second biggest thing is obviously not being able to draw under Shifter. So don't Shifter, search Reincarnation when you have a draw, and expect to be able to Reincarnation draw your opponent on the next turn, because you cannot draw under Shifter. But that is everything for the deck. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you think that there's any way that it can be changed, because it definitely can, I feel like this deck can play better. I've been chopping and changing it, but I'd never want to change something too much. I want to give it another couple weeks to test this and see what happens. But if there are any other cards that you guys play that you think would fit in, please feel free to pop them down in the comments. Let me know. If I haven't covered something and you're interested as to why I play that card, please drop that in the comments as well. I will answer them. But as always guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.